who had on their 2024 bingo card the entire media turns on Joe Biden, knifes him repeatedly for 2 weeks or 2 months, completely batters and bruises him right before the vote. I mean,
it's incredible.
Did Trump ever, like, it was Trump who was supposed to be getting that treatment right now from the media. Trump was supposed to be in the media every day, convicted felon. And instead we're getting decrepit, can't do it, incompetent, cognition, all the problems outlined by the Times and Politico and Axios and the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I mean, everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a black swan media event. It does not happen.
Yeah.
And it only happens because Democrats are pushing it. I mean, a lot of opportunity to do that before, but now it's a problem for them. Mm-hmm. I think that the biggest issue when it comes to this campaign is, at what point do you get to a point of no return with the center of the electorate, right? I mean, if you're looking, the reason that Joe Biden's like, all right, we're done talking about that, is that they're going to begin to incur, because of the daily conversation. I'm sure you've had this, Megyn, people in your family who are not political at all, who you never hear from about anything in the news or they'll shoot you a text and be like, my Lord, look at Joe Biden. Like, it's become a global phenomenon in information flow. And undoing that with a certain segment of the electorate that he's going to require to win 270 electoral votes is no easy task. If I'm a Democrat, you wonder whether or not you're already at a point of no return with that.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd want your party to be, or your press, to be hedging its bets a little bit more just in case he refuses to go, since he's got 99% of the delegates. This just in, guys, this is interesting. So we started the show by mentioning that the House Democrats are having a meeting, and supposedly the House Senate members, or the Democratic Senate members will as well. Just before, this is per Axios, House Democrats Tuesday morning meeting, a smaller group of swing district Democrats held what sources described as a despondent gathering with actual tears. All right, these are the ones who are in these swing states where they'll lose if Joe Biden's too much of a pull. They're on the fence anyway. The block of battleground House Democrats is one of the last firm pockets of a rapidly disintegrating movement on Capitol Hill to get Biden off the ticket. One described the mood as, quote, pretty much unanimous that Biden, quote, has got to step down, adding, quote, there were actual tears from people and not for Biden. One House Democrat who was in both meetings, the smaller one with the swing state Dems and the larger one, said, quote, most of our caucus is still with him, meaning he'll stay in, which sucks for our country. So this thing is turning. It's starting to turn. I don't know what Joe Manchin is talking about when he says just wait for the weekend. I don't know what Mike Quigley is talking about when he says behind the scenes it's even worse. Trust me, they're going to come out, the ones who are behind the scenes saying get out, and they're going to say it in front of the cameras. He's already losing some donors, but not all. So how does this play out, you guys? Is there some big turn coming before the weekend? And how long does he have?
I mean, if it's not Barack Obama himself and Hillary Clinton herself, Chuck Schumer himself, Hakeem Jeffries himself, if it's not those people coming out, looking at a camera and saying, Joe Biden, you need to get out, there is not enough strength to just sort of like do it behind the scenes and pitch a story to the New York Times and then have the editorial page write what they're writing.
Yeah, because Jill ain't having it.
Exactly. And Hunter's definitely not having it. No. Hunter is 100% not having it. This is all he's got.
Let me give you a visual on Hunter, what he's going to be doing. All right, we ran this video. Forgive me. It's not nice. It's from Brazil, and it's a woman who has taken in a dead man, an actual dead man, who she claimed was her uncle in an effort to get a 4-figure loan in his name. I'm sorry. It's so
Come on.
But that's
Come
Hunter
on.
and Joe.
This is Hunter Biden.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sure the pardon paperwork is around here somewhere, Dad. Here it is.
God, forgive me.
Before Inauguration Day, he's going to have Air Force One in China going just door to door with Joe in a wheelchair, being like, one more contract for the road. Come on.
You can do it. I literally have my father sitting right next to me this time. I actually
What do you want?
do.
Anything.
Selfies.
We talked about this, I think, must be like 6 months ago, Megyn, all of us together with you, what were their options, right? How would they get to a point where they could actually do something other than Joe Biden? And at that point, we talked about the difficulty of moving around Kamala Harris, which obviously there's a huge constituency that's represented within the Democratic Party that would take grave offense if somehow the number 2 was not elevated to the number 1 in such a scenario as the one we're looking at here. I think that's only become more difficult. Like, we laid out some scenarios back in the day, but I think now you see guys like Jim Clyburn, right, who's probably the single most important part of the constituency of Joe Biden. He would have been the nominee without him in 2020. He came out immediately and said, well, if it's not going to be Joe, it's going to be Kamala Harris. I think that's basically what they got here, right? And then there was some leaking out of super PAC major donor discussions that I think maybe Ben Smith or somebody had heard about. And I'm paraphrasing, but basically what they said is Kamala Harris is scarier to the center of the electorate than a dead Joe Biden. And that is a political reality that they are grappling with. Like, yes, it's unpalatable to have Joe Biden continue, but they're so locked in the constituencies that make up the Democratic Party that they actually can't freelance a whole bunch here, right? There's
Holmes,
no white horse coming down.
Do you think that Clyburn coming out and saying that about Kamala was intended to throw a lifeline to Joe? Because Clyburn understood fully that the Democratic base would not accept her as a sub?
I do. Like Duncan always says on our show, the best 25th Amendment insurance that Joe Biden ever got was appointing Kamala Harris as his number 2, right? Because nobody ever wanted to see her in charge. And I think that's part of and parcel of the case. But if you're talking about African Americans writ large and black women in particular, that is a core demographic to the Democratic Party. And there is no chance in hell that they can win states like Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania. You just can't do it. You can't even come close if that constituency loses some enthusiasm in the 2024 election. They know that. So it's like a rock and a hard place. I mean, there's really, at this point, like the gurney might be a better option for them.
This is so interesting. Like, I actually don't know what's going to happen. I realize that Biden wants to stay and Jill Biden wants to stay, but I've never seen this kind of media onslaught by the left against one of their own candidates who's already basically been nominated. I mean, he's got 99% of the delegates. It's one thing when you can cut like a senator or a House member who's immersed in a massive scandal. That's one thing. They've done that. But this is something else entirely, and it's universal. I mean, and the hypocrisy, of course, is like so on the nose. The New York Times, which you say is, how did you put it, Smug? They're in a rage. They're impotent. They're
impotent rage.
Impotent rage. Okay, I love that. They're in a meltdown right now, notwithstanding the fact that, when did the Her report come out? It was like a couple of months ago. HUR, the special counsel investigating Joe Biden and his misuse of classified documents. And this was their opportunity. He came out, he said, I would indict him. Yeah, he committed this crime, but he's a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory, and I don't think that a jury would convict such a person. That's it. That's all he said. He did not go on about poor memory that, is evident in all circumstances, or he can't put 2 sentences together, or he can't finish his thoughts, or he meanders, or he can't stay on topic, or all the things that we saw, or he's got the mouth agape and the dead waxy skin. Like, none of that. And this is what we have a soundbite of people on TV. But trust me, we went back and looked at the New York Times. They were just as bad in what they said about Robert Hur at the time. Watch this in Sat 5.
The comments that were made by that prosecutor, gratuitous, inaccurate, and inappropriate.
Hackery by Mr. Hur.
The guy knew. He's a Trumper who knew.
You are not to put a finger on the scale of politics.
That report showed that Merrick Garland again made the classic Democratic mistake, which is, I'll appoint a Republican partisan to investigate, and that will give us credibility.
This one who was appointed by Donald Trump wanted to make sure that he got his licks in.
Okay.
You managed to infuse licks in and Jeffrey Toobin in a shot that you just played for the Ruthless variety program.
It's subtle, but I knew you guys would get it.
I will point out for the listening audience, though, that CNN was good enough to pan to Toobin's hands, just so you know. Just so you knew where they were.
A thoughtful gesture as a programming note.
Robert Hur, where do you go to get your reputation back, right? Smeared by everybody in the media, including the Times, which is now saying, he's got to step down. He's too infirm. He can't do it. They were disgusted about this one line in the guy's report. They had opportunities to report on it. They had excuses to report on it. It really wasn't until two things happened. The lawfare campaign failed. The polls, I guess 3 things, did not improve. And then the world saw in an undeniable way just how bad he was, that they were like, we got to get off this sinking ship right now. The devil's about to get elected.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, this episode perfectly illustrates the lengths to which Democrats went to try to conceal Joe Biden's actual health from the American public. I mean, Hur came out with this, they instantly criticized, and you knew that was coming. But then down the road, House Republicans tried to get the audio to put, they're still not able to get that out. The White House just had presidential privilege dropped on top of that. And so people couldn't listen to a deposition from the president of the United States with a special counsel. They couldn't hear it because the White House's extraordinary moves to try to conceal it. And like you said, I think like 4 months ago, if you would have listened to that, my guess is, based on what was in that transcript, everybody would come to the same conclusion that we saw 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But now Democrats are stuck in a hot war behind the scenes. And that's part of the reason why, Megyn, you said that you can't figure out who's going to be their nominee. We can't figure out who's going to be their nominee. Democrats don't know who is going to be their nominee.
They had no plan.
They literally are in a war against each other. And the only chance that the New York Times and these members who want to get rid of Biden have, the only chance they have is if he has 99 delegates and Hillary Clinton isn't one.
Here's, I want to give you more on the New York Times after Hur's report. Paul Krugman, opinion columnist, the disgusting furor over Biden's age. When the news broke about the special counsel's hit job, his snide, unwarranted, obviously politically motivated slurs about President Biden's memory, and he goes on from there. I had an hour-long off-the-record meeting with Biden in August, and I can assure you he is perfectly lucid with a good grasp of events. Flash forward to after the debate on June 28. Here's his headline. The best president of my adult life needs to withdraw. No apology to Robert Hur. It's just, okay, now I see the truth. I mean, like we could spend all day doing this. It's just so dishonest. Can we spend
more importantly,
a minute?
you can see the truth. That's what he's concerned about.
Yep.
He knew
that's
the
his
truth.
issue.
But then now the fact that we can see the truth and it's not running through the prism that he had constructed to try to present a different reality, now it's a problem.
Yep.
Let me tell you a story about a guy named Leo Grillo. Leo was on a road trip and came across a Doberman. This dog was severely underweight and clearly in trouble. Leo rescued the dog and named him Delta. Sadly, though, Delta was just one of many animals that needed help. And all this inspired Leo to start Delta Rescue. It's the largest no-kill, care-for-life animal sanctuary in the world. They've rescued thousands of dogs, cats, and even horses from the wilderness, and they provide their animals with shelter, love, safety, a real home. April marked 45 years since Leo rescued Delta. Delta Rescue relies solely on contributions to stay open. If you want caring for these animals to be part of your legacy, speak with your estate planner because there are tax benefits for you here too. You can grow your estate while letting your love for animals live well into the future. Check out the estate planning tab on their website to learn more and speak with your advisor. We call dogs man's best friend for a reason. You can help those who need it most. Visit deltarescue.org today to learn more. That's deltarescue.org. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.